Hey everyone, it's Sula here from MistyHilltops.com, and today I want to show you how you can work with the templates that I put on my blog MistyHilltops.com as freebies. So they come in a Silhouette Studio file, and you should be able to work with your simple Studio Silhouette Studio software if you don't have any of the other editions. So I have the sketch, and it's fully workable. It has all the layers and everything, but I highly recommend that you don't work on the original file. I recommend that you take the file, you select everything. You can do that by hitting Command and A, that selects all, or by dragging your cursor over all the designs, and then to copy and paste it into a new document. So that way you don't lose the original file or change it and then the original file is permanently changed or something. So you can always go back and reuse it or do other things with it. So once you've created this new file, then there are several ways of what you can do with this. So you can either just use it to just trim your papers, and you can just use it to look at the sizes, okay? So this is for when you want to use it as a sketch. You can go to scale. That's somewhere here in this part. It's the function, and it will show you the size right there. It will show you the size, and on my computer it's centimeters, but if your computer is set up to inches, or your software, your Silhouette software is set up to inches, it will show in inches, and then you can easily trim according to the size of the paper that it shows there. So all you need to do is just move from one piece to another piece to see how large it is, and you can easily just cut the papers in exactly the same size. So that works very well. You can also use your papers and use these shapes and cut your papers with your Silhouette, but I would not even go there, because if it's just a simple rectangle, it's not even necessary to use the Silhouette or your cutting machine to do the cutting. I just fussy cut with my hand. So you can just go on these pieces, even if there's a circle. Now a circle is something I would consider having my Silhouette cut, but I also have my die cuts, and so I just make sure that when I print it, I'm print a circle, and then I will try to find one of the die cuts that fits the circles really well. So that's one way of how you can use the sketch. Just look at the sizes, but you can also use the sketch as an actual cut file. So I'm going to show you now how you can use these as a cut file. So what I'm doing is I'm moving them the entire design away from the cut space, and I'm deleting all the parts that I don't need. And then all I have left is the actual Traveler's Notebook spread there. And then what I can do is select the papers and everything, and then drag them over into the cut space. So I can select the whole thing and then just deselect the background layer, and that helps me with just moving everything over there. So again, you can move this over and then start to spread around the shapes around the side, the paper, the page that you have. And you can take all the different, I'm still trying to delete some of the elements, like there was a little thread there that I will add later in real life. Now here you see it has a print border, and I make sure I have the print border set up. So there are some settings here. You can have your cutting border and your print border set, and I do that especially when I want to print something in my Silhouette software. I want to make sure that I have the print border set on, so that I don't place something that is outside the print border. Now, Silhouette does need a printing border, and I cannot do borderless printing within the Silhouette design space. And so I have to then use, I just have to use the printing borders that are here. Silhouette actually says that you should use the margins but they come right there. It will show the margins right there, but so I guess it's called registration marks. But I don't like to use them because they waste a lot of paper, especially if I use cardstock. So I just have found my own way of how I can print, and it works very well. So here I am actually setting the matte or my medium to A4 because I'm printing on A4, so that will show only the A4 size paper, and the rest of the matte will just pale away, I guess. So again, I'm not working with the official way that Silhouette officially recommends to do print and cuts, because I found it's quite wasteful of my paper. And so at some point I will show you another way of how I do this. Today all I want to show you is how you can work with these sketches, so that would be too much for this video. But there will be a video where I share this. So I'm still spreading out and the various papers there, and I make sure that nothing goes outside the printing borders. I can move this out away. Actually, that can be deleted because it's not even being used. Don't even know why I didn't delete it in the first place. So now I'm pulling in the rest of the elements there, and again I'm spreading them across the page. Now, if you want to use these cutting layers for your papers that are already just from paper packs and all that, then you need to use one by one if you want to use differently patterned papers, right? But this is now for when I print papers, and I'm using digital papers for this. So this is how I set it up if I want to use this as an actual template, not just a sketch. So I'm still setting up the various shapes there, and I usually try to go with where it just is least wasteful with my paper, and I will add more elements and other things to this. So here are the pieces, and now I want to add some paper. Now let me remind you that all these shapes have a black border around, and so you want to make sure that you remove that black border because it'll print. If you want to print, it doesn't matter if you just want to cut a file, but if you want to use it for printing, I recommend you remove the black border, or you set the thickness to 0, then it doesn't print, I think, if I remember correctly. But if it's anything more than 0, it's like 0.25 or something, it'll print the border, and that might be not something that you want to do. So here I'm going to show you how I will use digital papers with my template. I'm going to use, for this example, I'm going to use Transatlantic Travel from Bella Carter. You can usually, most people, I guess, buy the bundles and stuff just as actual scrapbooking bundles, but I got this as a download or just as a digital version. So now you can pull this paper directly into your design, and you need to pull it into the shape where you want the paper to go in. But if you directly pull the paper into the shape, it will really reduce it to the size of the shape that it is. So the paper will get really small with really tiny shapes. And if you want to preserve the original size or make it to a decent size, I recommend that you create another square file or another square in your Silhouette, and you can do it as a 6x6 paper, which is common, or because you're working with a traveler's notebook, you might as well use a traveler's notebook size, and that would be 8 1/4 inches, which is about 21 centimeters. So I'm going to set it as 21 centimeters because that's going to give me the full size of a full the length of a traveler's notebook page. And so then that paper has a good it's scaled to a good size that works with all my papers. So here I'm just still resizing that's to make it a square, not just one traveler's notebook page, but a square, because I'm just preparing it so I can pull the paper in there. So then I go back and find my paper and I pull it into the shape. If I put it somewhere else, you see it just becomes this huge, humongous, because these papers are usually designed with high quality and they turn out huge in the silhouette. So make sure you pull it into the design, but make sure you don't pull it into any other design, because it'll take the shape of whatever you pull it onto. So then I copy and paste, because I don't want to keep making those squares from scratch. So I just copy and paste a paper of that, and then I can pull in more papers onto the original square there. So I copy and paste it onto the shape that I want to work with, and then so I move it onto that shape, and then I crop it. So I just go and find the cropping tool on the side. Here I realize I'm not going to need to print a photo. I print the photos on photo paper, whereas these I print on some cardstock or something. So this is how this works if I want to work with digital papers. I just pull them in, then copy and paste them, move them atop an existing shape, and then crop that, like with both shapes selected. Both shapes need to actually be selected, and then I can crop it. Now here I can also use some embellishments that I can pull in, but I want to be careful. Like that's when I want to actually use my silhouette to cut things. So this is what I just showed you, is if I just want to just use my hand, so just fussy cut or trim with my trimmer, trim the paper to a workable size. But now I'm going to show you what you can do if you want your silhouette to cut your files. In order to do that and make it work, you want there to be a bleed, okay, some extra space, so that when your silhouette cuts things, there won't be just this ugly tiny little white space that shows up because the silhouette wasn't aligned perfectly and didn't get the cut perfectly right. So you want to make sure there's a little bleed space, and I set it to 0.12 centimeters or something. I don't know what that is in inches, but I set the bleed to a 0 point something, like 1 millimeter bleed all around. So that gives me a little wiggle space, and then I can pull the paper in the same way. I can copy, paste the paper, or simply duplicate the paper, and then I move it across that shape, and then I select the outer shape now, not the inner one, because I want the bleed. I want the paper to fill the bleed, not to fill just the inner side of the paper. So I put it on the background so I can actually see what I'm working with here. And then I'm trying to select that line, but that's going to be a little difficult. So I'm just going to select all the shapes, and then deselect the inner shape there, and then I just crop it again. So now I have this cropped, and then you see, because the templates have the shapes filled with color, you need to make sure that the color is set so that it's not filled. Now you want to make sure that when you prepare your file for cutting, that it will show that there is a double line, and it will cut both lines that you just created, the outer line and the inner line of the actual shape that you want. So you want to make sure that you select the bleeding layers. So that's the outer layer that actually has the paper filling, that is filled with the paper, and you want to select that, and then choose the no cut. So that will then leave the inner shape, and that will be cut, and it gives you a wonderful bleeding space. So even if your silhouette is just a tiny bit off, it will still cut a paper, fully cut a paper. You don't have to worry about it showing any kind of white spaces on the around the edges or anything, because it'll print the paper perfectly as long as there's some bleed space. And the same is true for elements. I do that with elements as well. You can just, any kind of embellishments, have an offset around the embellishments, and then I kind of use the color picker to choose a majority color for that, to fill the bleed space, because often the elements have different various colors, and so I use that color picker there to give it some extra bleed space, and it will look the same. So this is how you can use these sketches, and how you can turn them into cut files, or just use them as is as sketches. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.